What's up, y'all? It's your girl DJ Heat here, and today's convo is one that we really need to have, y'all. Like, real talk, not playing. Conversation today is about menthol cigarettes and how they've shown up in our communities and what we can do together to protect our health, support each other, and take the next step forward. Now, this ain't about judgment. I'm not judging any of y'all. Okay. We listen, we don't judge, but this is about the truth. It's about options and it's about feeling empowered to say, I deserve better because you do. We all deserve better. So check this out. Joining me today is someone I have so much respect for, Dr. Mignonne Guy. She's an associate professor at the Department of Family Medicine and Population Health, School of Medicine at Virginia Commonwealth University. Shout out to VCU. The Rams are in the building. I see y'all out there. And Dr. Guy has led research that helps us understand how our health is shaped by culture, environment, and yes, by what's been made available to us in our communities. She's worked with organizations like the FDA, the CDC, and she's been honored nationally. I know that's right, girl, for the work she's doing to close the gap in health outcomes, especially for us, Black folks. We out here, cook out. Dr. Guy knows how to break it down so we can build it back up and build it back better. I am beyond glad to have her here with us today. Welcome, y'all, Dr. Guy.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to be here with you to have this conversation, this very important conversation,
Yes.
at the right time of the year, about the impact of tobacco and particularly menthol cigarettes in our communities.
All right, listen, glad to have you. Let's get into it. Let's get into it.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it.
So first, let's start with some background, Dr. Guy. So how did menthol cigarettes become so common in our communities, and why is it important that we understand the history of it?
Yeah. So it's interesting because people, whenever I think about this, everyone always sort of says to me, well, menthol's really like a black thing, right? It's a black thing. It's in our neighborhoods. It's been in our neighborhoods. No, what I hear is it's our culture. That's what I hear, right? And I'm like, no, it's not. I'm like, no, it's not. And in fact, if it's the culture, then it's been manufactured by tobacco industry, right? Because menthol actually was not originally in black communities early on when it first was invented. It was in white communities.
Wow.
And I know, right? But over time, the disproportionate use of menthol cigarettes in black communities, it basically represents this clear health equity issue, the same thing that we see in other chronic diseases and other health behaviors. But it has deep and seriously historical roots in America's differential treatment of various populations. How about that?
Right.
But according to the CDC, like I think it's 85% of black people who smoke menthol compared to 30% of white people who smoke. That's not just happenstance. Exactly, right? Right? You think it just happened to be there, or we just have like this gene where we like minty flavors more than other folks? No, that's not what happened. In the 1950s, the tobacco industry started to target black communities through culturally tailored advertisements and sponsorships of community and cultural events and churches and HBCUs. Like they basically became very immersed in our communities and in our culture, and then sold these products to our communities and inundated our communities with these products that we have not been able to get out since. So this has been going on since like the 1950s.
Ooh, it's funny that you mentioned that, like the sponsorship of different events, because one of the questions that came in from the audience, they asked was, did cigarette companies advertise subliminally to children, and also along with that, with to just the younger culture, like sponsoring different types of parties. So someone sent something to me about like one cigarette company was sponsoring like DJ battles, and like me as a DJ, I'm like DJ, and then like a whole something. There was another company, they had this whole tour that they mimicked after House of Blues, but they was calling it the House of Menthol. I was like, this is like it's a whole tour called the House of Menthol, but y'all saying, hey, come out and party with us. Like
that's right. That's right.
Crazy.
I mean, so that's really what it is, right? That's how insidious it is, right? So
Mhm.
they take something within our culture that is uniquely ours and that
Mhm.
we celebrate, and and then they twist it for their own purposes and try to sell their products or push their products through that. You know, I used to always say, so I used to be a professor in Black studies, right? I used to be in African American studies up until recently. I went into Black studies early on because I wanted to understand the impact of various um, industries and policies and things of that nature in Black communities,
Mhm.
specifically to Black communities. And I felt like if I wanted to study Black folks, I wanted to understand my people, I needed to go to the right space to do that
Right.
before I went to medicine. But the thing that I learned there, which was really fascinating, was that the tobacco industry was doing Black studies before we, as academics and as scholars, were doing Black studies. They
Hmm.
were paying for like $1 million, multi-million dollar long-term longitudinal studies to study Black people, to study our habits, our likes, our dislikes, our preferences, our wishes, our hopes, and our desires. And what you can see in tobacco advertising over time is you can see a direct reflection of the socio-political and cultural environment, like encapsulated at that moment. You can track it all through tobacco advertisements. And so they very easily have connected to various elements, such as, remember back when we had our Black Power movement back in the day, we had like our afros and our Black
Mhm.
Power. You
Yes.
see a bunch of ads that are reflective of the Black Power movement. You see
Mhm.
a bunch of ads that are reflective of rap music and
Mhm.
rap generations. You see a bunch of ads that are reflective of periods of time when the tobacco industry decided that Black people wanted to be more like other people. And so they were depicting the American dream to them. It's it has been very insidious, and it has been relentless. Excuse me, over the past several hundred years, or past 100 years or so.
Mm.
Yeah.
I want to go back to something else I mentioned. Like people wondering, like, were these companies trying to target children as well? Because one thing with me that I remembered, growing up in the '90s, Gen Xer here, but that was the time frame where you could still get sent to the corner store at 7 years old and getting a pack
Right.
of Newports for your mama. And like to me, I could say that was such a cool brand to see because they had like a catalog where you could earn points and get the
Mhm.
merchandise. And my classmates, we at elementary school, and they're coming to school with this merchandise. And as
Mhm.
kids, we just seeing y'all got that cool merch. Like I remember one of the most wanted items was like I think it was like a Newport lunch bag.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember like field trips and stuff. They was we coming to school with a Newport lunch
Yeah.
bag. It made
Yeah.
us. It did make us want it. So you think that's a way that they try to target to children by offering like fun prizes for the parents?
Well, yeah, and they do it in a couple of different ways, right? So yes, yes. So one of the key. This isn't specific to menthol, but this is just a great example, which
Mhm.
is when they have the Joe Camel. Do you remember the Joe Camel cigarettes
Yes,
had the Joe Camel car? It was
the
a cartoon.
cartoon. Yeah. Hmm.
Who are they talking for? Who's that for? The cartoon. Is that for grown folks? Is that for my 54-year-old self? No. That's
Yeah.
for younger people. That's for
Mm.
younger kids, right? But we had some of that within the Black community as well. One of the things that they've done within our neighborhoods in particular, which has been really important, and something that we all need to actually think about, because we can actually push back and do something about it within our communities,
Mhm.
is the advertising that's in the stores.
Mhm.
So oftentimes what's happening with the young people, it's not necessarily, it can be on social media, advertising on social media, right? But it's really at the point of sale. And it's
Mhm.
really when you go into the corner store, or the Circle K or 7-Eleven or whatever it is in your
Mhm.
neighborhood, and you'll see that specific products, usually flavored products,
Mhm.
menthol,
Mhm.
Black and Milds, and Swisher Sweets that are great flavor and things of that nature, are advertised at the height of young people,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
They have
Mhm.
a whole, I mean, I'm telling you, this is like, they have the most amazing amounts of science that's actually going into this to try to make sure that they can market their products and get their captive audience. But you go into the stores, and many of the advertisements are right where the young people would would stand. That's number one. Or
Mm,
by the products that they would want, like candy and things of that nature,
mhm.
so that they see it right there, right? When next time you go in the store, you're going to go look at it. The other thing that you see is like in black and brown neighborhoods, black neighborhoods in particular, you see more advertisements on the walls. So when you compare neighborhoods in white neighborhoods or black neighborhoods, you'll see more ads for menthol and for alcohol in our neighborhoods,
That is
right?
true.
So they come at us in different ways, right? So back in the day, they could give away the swag. Now they can't give away the swag anymore, but
Mm,
they still have a captive audience when they go into when we go into our stores just to go purchase,
mhm.
some gum or something of
Right,
that nature,
right.
right? Yeah.
Wow.
So it's those are no there's no mistake about why there's such a high prevalence of tobacco menthol use in our neighborhoods, and why our young people are more likely to start menthol cigarettes when compared to other groups.
Mm.
Start using menthol cigarettes, initiate using menthol cigarettes, as well as continuing to use them throughout their life until they are able to quit, if they are able to quit.
Whew. So,
Yeah.
talk about life. So let's shift gears. Talk about health. Uh,
Yes.
what makes menthol different from other kinds of cigarettes in terms of how it affects the body?
So, so this is funny. This is a question. I'm so glad you asked that question, because it's a question that I always want to answer, and people don't know always to ask, and so sometimes I don't get to it. So, one of the things that we have to remember, and some of the folks that are watching this may remember that very recently the U.S. federal government, there was discussion about banning menthol at the federal level, right? And the reason why they were able to have a proposed rule to potentially, because they didn't ban it, to potentially ban menthol, was because there was a massive evidence base of literature and of scientific studies that showed that menthol cigarettes are fundamentally different than non-menthol cigarettes, right? They are different animals. They're both cigarettes. They're both combustible. They both give you a buzz, or your brain thinks that you can relax, all of those things, but they are different animals. They're different products. And so menthol cigarettes in particular, individuals who smoke menthol cigarettes oftentimes have increased nicotinic receptors in their brains, right? And when I talk about nicotinic receptors, it's really, you think about it as like sort of like a traffic signal,
Okay.
right? So something that says start, stop, go this way, go right. So
Mhm.
it's a map, right, of how that product's going to travel in your brain, right, and how much of it goes into it attaches to these receptors in your brain. So we find that individuals who smoke menthol cigarettes have increased nicotinic receptors in the brains. That is not because they just had them before they started smoking menthol. There's an association between increasing those nicotinic receptors. When you increase the nicotinic receptors, what happens, right? You have an increased addiction. So you have more difficulty quitting smoking,
Mm,
right? Because your brain's like, I want this, I want this, I have
mhm,
more, I have more.
mm,
I need to smoke a cigarette, right? And so
mhm,
when compared to a regular cigarette or non-menthol cigarette. So you have increased nicotine receptors, you have increased levels of dependence. Those are two things. The other thing is menthol itself, right? So the reason why people smoke menthol is because tobacco is harsh, and
mhm.
sometimes it doesn't even taste that good, right?
Yeah.
And so what does menthol do? It makes the poison go down more smoothly. It
Wow.
actually makes it, you have this cooling effect, right? And when you have this cooling effect, what do? You inhale more deeply. You inhale more deeply and you hold it in your chest longer, right?
Mm,
That's called smoking topography. You smoke a menthol cigarette in a different way than you smoke a non-menthol cigarette, right? And
mm,
so all of these factors make it more difficult to quit. It makes it more difficult to quit, and it makes it more likely. Well, some research suggests that individuals that smoke menthol have greater risks related to cardiovascular disease and cancers. Excuse me, but that has to do with more with the long-term effects of using those products. So it's not the same product. And the thing here's it, and I'll even say this as a researcher, as a scientist, I will
okay.
tell you that I believe that historically researchers have been woefully sloppy and lazy, in that
Mm,
most studies that create the evidence base to try to develop intervention so we can quit to
Hmm.
develop medications, nicotine patches, counseling, to develop all of those interventions so that we can quit smoking. Most of them don't study menthol as if it's a different product when compared to non-menthol. So they're studying it as if it's like they're taking something that worked for non-menthol and trying to apply it to menthol when in fact they're apples and oranges. And
Mm.
so people who smoke menthol cigarettes should know they're dealing with a product that is significantly more addictive when compared to non-menthol cigarettes.
But with studies, people trying to blur the line, so no, like those who are smoking menthol cigarettes are not getting the full story about.
Girl, let me tell you, you want me to tell you, we're gonna get into my bane of existence right there. No, this is real. This is because I've read all this literature, right? I've been reading this literature since I was in my 20s,
Right.
right? And I cannot, when I look at the literature consistently, the discussion is about Black people can't quit smoking.
Mm.
Black people are more likely to fail a quit attempt.
Mm.
That's what the narrative is, right?
Right.
But what it should be is that individuals who use this kind of product have poorer outcomes, right? Because it's the product. It's the product that's a problem. It is not the population.
Mm.
We are using a different product when compared to everyone else, right? And nobody disaggregates it, despite the fact that 85% of Black people who smoke menthol. So if you tell me that we have lower quit rates, of course we do, because we're using a product that is more addictive. So that's just my rant today.
It's okay. Yeah, it's not us, it's the product. And you make me look at it in a different perspective, because like if 80% are using this product, and I'm sure that helps people look at it differently that want to quit, like in our community, because
That's
they're
right.
probably wondering why, like, man, why? And no, and like you said, they all these stereotypes. We
That's
have
right.
enough stereotypes.
That's right. That's right. That's
Going
right.
on.
That's right.
So now we're falling into this stereotype when it's not us.
It's
It's
not us.
it's the
It's
product.
not us. Yeah,
Okay.
it is the product. And if there's one thing that I wish that I could convey to my fellow community members, is that it is not our fault. It is not us. We are not failing. We are
Mm.
dealing with a different product that we can beat and we can succeed and we can quit. But we just have to know that's what it is, that it's something different.
Yeah, we learning some things today, and I want to take a moment to say this loud and clear to everyone watching, that this isn't about shame at all, because Dr.
No,
Guy is giving us like we shouldn't be ashamed. Look what they
nope,
do to our community. Like,
nope.
this is about awareness, it's about healing, it's about reclaiming your health. Everyone's journey in quitting looks different, and
That's right.
that is totally okay, especially learning what we are learning
That's right. That's
today.
right. That's right.
um
That's right.
so let's run through a few questions that came directly from y'all. This is from the community, y'all. The community had some questions. All right, first one we have: is there a safer alternative to menthol cigarettes? Like, a lot of people ask about vapes, and is vaping a step in the right direction to quitting the menthol, or is it just a new risk? Is like, I'm giving up, this thing that has 500 grams of sugar, and I'm going to go with this one that has 499.9 grams of sugar type of thing.
Yeah. So this is a funny one. And it's an important note. And I'm glad that the community members asked this question, because I think we don't discuss it nearly enough, or I don't hear it nearly enough when I'm out having these kinds of talks with people. Which is so there's this growing movement within public health research and tobacco control research talking about harm reduction. That's what they call it. They call it harm reduction. And if you look at the ads for e-cigarettes and things of that nature, you'll see that they're really framed in a way you can break free from cigarettes and we can help you do it with this other product, right? And they do imply that it is less harmful than combustible cigarettes, than other cigarettes that we're burning, right? That's a very dangerous myth. Um,
Mm.
and for a couple of reasons. So there's a couple of reasons why I have a problem with it.
Okay.
One is that we need to go the course if we're gonna if we want to quit smoking, if we want to sort of remove nicotine, the shackles of nicotine from our lives, right? If we want to get away from
Mhm.
this, we really need to quit using all tobacco products. That's number one.
Mhm.
Number two, the thing that we need to remember with Black communities in particular, and this is just how it is for us, right? Is that we have higher rates of cardiovascular disease in our communities, right?
Yeah.
And we're seeing young people like get hit in
Yeah.
ways that we just haven't seen in the past, right?
Mhm.
So if you have a population that already has a higher risk for cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, stroke, things
Mhm.
of that nature,
Mhm.
you don't want to bring in another product that is not regulated. So you don't know how much nicotine is in it, right?
Mm.
And you don't know how much exposure you're having to that nicotine because they're not regulated, right? So it's a little bit like a Russian roulette game, right? So that's one problem. The other problem is this: is that the very nature of electronic cigarettes are that in some ways they're brilliant, right? So you could literally use an electronic cigarette anywhere. You could use it in your house all day
Yeah.
long and nobody
Yeah.
would smell it. You
You
could
know.
use it at your office, at work. You could use it in your car. You could use it on an
Mhm.
airplane. You could do it in all of these different places.
Mhm.
I guarantee you that individuals who switch from menthol cigarettes to electronic cigarettes end up using that product more because they're not prohibited by using that combustible, that burning thing that smells everywhere,
Right.
right?
Mm.
So you very easily end up increasing your nicotine intake and exposure by by incorporating an electronic cigarette. A lot of the research out there shows that people who try to switch to electronic cigarettes end up doing both. They smoke cigarettes and then they have electronic cigarettes as well.
So they can
So
have it in those places they can't take the regular cigarettes.
right. So what are you doing, right? So like, you know, when you're so you can go on your cigarette break and smoke your menthol cigarette, your combustible cigarette outside during your break. But when you come back to your desk, you could just sit there and have this like electronic cigarette the whole time.
It smells like
That
strawberries in the office.
yeah, that's not
That's
good. That's
that's
not it's not helpful. And again, we have higher rates of cardiovascular disease and
mm,
respiratory disease as well.
mhm,
And electronic cigarettes can exacerbate both of those issues for our
mm.
community. And that is a serious problem. So no, I would not recommend um, switching to adding an electronic cigarette into the mix because that's just not. And just one more thing I want to say real
Yeah.
quick. Anytime you hear anyone talking about switching
Mhm,
to an electronic cigarette, just know that that's coming from the tobacco industry.
mhm,
Those are their talking points. So whenever we hear that or we see those ads and things
mhm.
like that, you need to just have your little spidey sense up
It's
and
still the
say,
same
"Oh, okay,
industry.
that's right." They're just trying to sell something else to me. Because the reality is this: the only thing that is safe in our lungs is oxygen, not smoking or not cigarette smoke, combustible cigarette smoke, not all the carcinogens in it, not PGVG that's in propylene glycol and vegetable glycerin that we're burning up and inhaling with electronic cigarettes. Nope,
Mhm. No, that's not it,
no,
y'all.
no, that's not it. That's not it.
Have another question from the community. Shout out to y'all. This person asks, what's a healthy way to manage stress or anxiety without turning to cigarettes? And what are some tools that can help? To tie into that, I actually had a friend. She messaged me and said she went cold turkey. And I actually like, well, how did you do it? She said she had to find something else to replace the cigarette. She
Yeah,
like an
yeah.
activity. She like read something, do something else. So I like to hear the
Distraction.
suggestions of ways to manage stress without turning to cigarettes.
Yeah, yeah. And the world is like stressful as heck right now, isn't it? It's just
Right.
like it's just getting worse and worse and worse. And I'm just like, dang. There's a couple of I'll just disclose to you. I always tell people this. I have no shame. See, this is why I'm not shaming anyone because I have no shame. So I used to smoke cigarettes as well, right? I did not smoke menthol, which is probably why it was easier for me to quit in the long
Mm,
run. But I used to smoke cigarettes. And I failed so many times. It was like I don't even know how many times I tried to quit and it just didn't stick.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried nicotine pouches, I tried lozenges, gums, and all of these other things, right? Um, and my path was a little bit different because I think that for me, just tried every single avenue, and at some point I'm like, okay, I'm tired of trying, so let me just quit, right? That's literally how it happened for me. But the notions of stress and stress reduction are real, and the reason why I brought up my own path and my own journey to you is that, I quit smoking like 15, 20 years ago, right? But during COVID, I was craving cigarettes. It came back to me after all those years. And so clearly there was a trigger with the kinds of trauma and stress responses that I was undergoing during that time, during COVID,
Mm-hmm.
that made my brain think that somehow I could self-medicate with a cigarette, right? I didn't do it. But it just tells you how deep it is and how it can come back and like sneak up on you. But you have to be prepared. I think that for many of us, there's quite a bit of evidence around mindfulness. So learning how to sort of just take a minute, do some deep breathing, try to redirect your thoughts, understand that this is just a temporary craving, and this too shall pass, right? That's one thing that we can do, and that's something that we should do just in general, quite frankly, is just for self-care, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other things that we can do is exercise, right? Try to distract ourselves. Now, mind you, I'm very fit and very thin, and I don't like to exercise, to be honest. I just don't. I don't like to exercise. I don't like to sweat. When I start running, my body starts itching and all this other stuff. That's not me, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I do like to do, I like gardening. I like walking with my dogs. I like walking with my husband, going into anything where there's nature. I can do that. So that will be my distraction, right? And so I just literally focus on something else that I really enjoy and that is equally fulfilling. There's something else out there, though, that there are these tools, and they're called breathing pens. Actually, they don't have any chemicals in them or anything of that nature, because the physical addiction to nicotine is very short-lived. It's out of your body within a few days.
Oh wow.
It is the psychological one that is hard to get past, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult. And so some individuals in some studies that I've conducted use it's called a breathing pen, and it literally just helps you to substitute the mouth, the various behaviors that you
just
would
got
practice
in
when
that
you were
habit of
smoking,
doing certain
yeah,
things all the time.
you're inhaling like on this little stick that there's no air. I mean, there's no nicotine, there's no chemicals or anything like that. But it helps you to get past that the tactile sort of addiction that we have as well. So I think that all of those things, but the thing that people have to remember is that it's really short lived, and if they can pay attention just for a moment and just say, okay, this is my brain telling me that I want this. I don't have to have it. I don't need it. And then if I'm like really stressed out and hyped up, then I say to myself, okay, Mignonne, this is just anxiety and it goes away. And I'm not really the things that I'm feeling are not, I'm feeling them, but they are not what has to be. And so I can sort of bring this down as well. I do this to myself all the time. All the time.
More mindful and more present of what you're experiencing.
Absolutely. Mindfulness and be present and very clearly be able to recognize, because sometimes we get so stressed out and so anxious, we can't even see it, right? We just start acting out of it, but we can't see that that's what it is. And I, and even in my studies, what I've done is we've worked with people and we've said, okay, you have to just recognize that this is just your brain telling you that this is what you're seeing, or this is what is, or this is what you're experiencing, but this is not what is, and this does not have to be the case in 10 minutes from now, right? You give yourself that beat, that minute before you like sort of reach for that automatic behavior of smoking. If you can just give yourself that grace for that 1 minute, you'll be fine. Call a friend, pick up a magazine, do whatever you need to do. Just get up and walk away, and keep cigarettes and ashtrays out of your house. It'll make it much easier. It'll make it much easier for you to
be present.
Most people want to quit. They want to quit. It's just hard. It's hard.
It's hard, but guess what? That's why we're here. DC quit
That's
now.
right.
is here.
That's right.
Make
That's
sure
right.
everyone follows at DC Quit Now on Instagram. Go on the website, dcquitnow.org. Lots of resources, healthy alternatives, you
That's
know,
right.
alternatives like Dr. Guy shared. May is also Mental Health Awareness Month. So, like she mentioned, being present. And it is a mental battle. Like anything, when you're trying to give up anything, it is a mental battle. So I'm glad that we're doing this. We teamed up with DC Quit Now, helping everyone take the next step. No pressure,
Mhm.
no judgment. Again, dcquitnow.org or Instagram at DC Quit Now. The support is
That's
so
right.
real.
That's right.
Dr. Guy, thank you. Thank you so much for all this knowledge and the care that you shared with us today. This wasn't just a conversation, it was a wake up call and a reminder to everyone that change is possible and they don't have to do it alone. So, Dr. Guy, thank you once again for being here today.
Thank you so much. This is my pleasure. And I always, every time I have the opportunity to speak to my community and to work with my community, um, I'm always forever grateful. So
Thank you.
I
We're grateful
appreciate
for
it.
you. And also to everyone that's tuning in on this No Menthol Sunday, we want to hear from you. What resonated the most with you? What questions do you still have? What's one step that you're ready to take towards your help, even if it's just thinking about quitting? Because we said it's mental as well. So drop it in the comments, DM us as well at DC Quit Now, or share this video with someone that you love. Let's talk about it. All right. And again, make sure you're following at DC Quit Now to stay up to date on free resources, real stories, and reminders that you've got support
That's
at every
right.
stage. All right.
That's
Because quitting isn't just about stopping, it's about starting something that's better for you. Start today, start small, just start. We got your back.
right.
All right.
That's
Love
right.
each and every one of y'all.